I'm Chris Hyler, and this is IBN News, the world's only true news source. Today we'll be taking a special look into the Greek economy. For the second year in a row, Greek capitalists and their European counterparts are demanding working people accept deep wage cuts, widespread layoffs, and further assaults on pensions in order to prevent a default on the Greek debt and guarantee that the Greek and foreign banks get their interest payments. Last year, Athens obtained a loan of 110 billion euro. 1 euro is equal to $1.43 from the International Monetary Fund, known as the IMF, and the European Central Bank to avoid an imminent default on its debt. It was scheduled to obtain the last 12 billion euro installment by July of this year. The new loans were initially blocked when German Chancellor Angela Merkel insisted that the bank holding Greek bonds take a loss and reschedule Greek debt payments. She later dropped that demand, but a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers announced June 20th that the 12 billion euro will be held up until the Greek parliament approves a new round of cuts. Athens will also require further loans from the European Union and the IMF about equal to last year's bailout package to avoid defaulting in 2012-13. Already, Athens' public debt to Greek and foreign institutions is at 153% of the gross domestic product, also known as the GDP. Greece's credit rating was reduced to a CCC rating, the lowest in the world by Standard & Poor's. The austerity measures already taken by Athens have resulted in a deep contraction in the country's economy. The GDP is predicted to decline by 4% in 2011. Cement productions is down 60% since 2006. Steel productions has declined by more than 80% over the past 2 years. The official unemployment rate hit 16% in the first part of 2011. Youth unemployment is at 40%. The Greek cabinet submitted a 5-year austerity plan to the parliament June 9th that included laying off 150,000 workers, changes to work rules, hours, and wages, and cutting pensions and unemployment compensation. My parents are both public sector workers, explained Martha Pasona, a 24-year-old laboratory technician, in an interview with The Militant. My mother is a surgery nurse, and my father makes fire extinguishers at a state firm. Last year, their yearly combined income was slashed from 39,000 euro to 34,000 euro. Now, with the new austerity measures, it will drop to 29,000 euro. How is my family supposed to make ends meet, she asked. They have been participating in the protests. It is not fair to blame public sector workers like my parents for the crisis. On June 15th, tens of thousands of workers, many from various state-owned enterprises, marched on the Greek parliament at Syntigma Square as part of a 24-hour general strike called by the Union Federation. Thousands were also in the square from the protest of the indignant citizens. These mainly middle-class demonstrators, including many unemployed youth, have held daily rallies of up to 40,000 at the square since May 25th, with slogans such as, "It is the theft and corruption of those in power that is to blame," "The government and all parties have stolen our money," and "No to the sellout of the IMF." Some in the indignant protest have been openly hostile to the trade unions and public sector workers in particular. Public Power Corporation strikers were booed by the indignant protesters when they marched to the square May 26. Most Greeks say they have little confidence in a political class that they see as corrupt and unaccountable. A recent study by Transparency International in Greece found that 9 out of 10 Greeks believe that their politicians were corrupt, and 80% said that the parliament has lost credibility. And having faced across-the-board wage and pension cuts, they have come to question why the lawmakers have benefits that include state cars, generous double pensions from the government and from their own professional guilds, bonuses from attending committee meetings on top of their $8,500 a month salaries. Well, Jeff, it sounds like things in Greece are starting to fall apart. What is the outlook for our college students here in America?
Thanks, Chris. With recent tuition increases and fewer jobs available, today's college generation is finding it a lot harder to make a living. Tuition hikes have stayed in the mid-4% range over the last 3 years, according to the Washington-based National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities, while U.S. consumer prices rose at an annual 3.6% in May. An increase in financial need, employee health care, information technology, and utilities contributed to rising tuition, the association said in a statement. During the decade prior to the global financial crisis that began in 2008, the average tuition increase was 6%. In light of the economic downturn, private colleges have aimed to increase student aid while slowing tuition increases, David L. Warren, the association's president, said in a statement. Published tuition fees for the 2010-2011 academic year averaged $27,293, according to the College Board, a nonprofit research and advocacy group based in New York. As higher education becomes more expensive than it has ever been, and the job market for recent graduates remains tougher than it has ever been, I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise that the number of Americans viewing college as a worthwhile investment is lower than it has ever been, down to 63% last year from 80% in 2008. All of this raises an interesting question. Why does our country and our government insist on placing such an emphasis on and investing so many resources in validating the notion that all American students should be steered towards college? It seems as if the schools of higher learning are becoming the schools of higher unemployment. The only field of study still in high demand in our society today is in education and moral character. Chris, back to you.
That's right, Jeff. Word coming out of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is, we need teachers. If you're interested in moral character education being taught in your community, you should contact the Peaceful Solution. You can do so by going to www.peacefulsolution.org, or you can call them at 1-888-613-9494. Next week, IBN News is going to take an in-depth look into why our youth of today may be falling apart. Could it be a broken system? We'll take a look at the 7-2 vote that was passed by the U.S. Supreme Court to allow violent video games into the hands of our youth today. From all of us here at IBN News, thanks for joining us.